You know, in the great tapestry of history, some lives aren't just lived, they're woven into the very fabric of time itself. What we're about to explore isn't just a biography, it's a chronicle, a legend of a soul whose faith was so immense it could stand at the crossroads of life and death and not falter.
And that's the question at the very heart of this story. It's a question that brings us to the edge of an abyss, a place where science had given up and hope was just a flickering ember.
So, I want you to picture this. It's around 1895. A terrible cholera epidemic is tearing through the country, leaving devastation in its wake. And the great master Somdej Phra Wanarat Daeng, a teacher and a guide to so many, has fallen victim to it. The diagnosis is final. His life is slipping away, and with him, the light in the world of his students is about to go out. But in this darkest moment, a visiting patriarch brings forth an ancient power, a forgotten tradition, the secret of the Phra Kring. Now, this is no simple charm. You have to understand this is seen as the physical form of the medicine Buddha himself, an object whose entire essence is healing and compassion.
A Phra Kring amulet is taken and placed into water, transforming that simple water into a consecrated, holy vessel. This liquid is then given to the dying master, and then the impossible happens. The sickness, which had been raging uncontrollably, begins to retreat. The fever breaks. Life flows back into him. A true miracle, born from ancient faith, unfolds right there. And for one young monk watching all of this wasn't an ending. It was the beginning of everything.
That man, the one who witnessed this incredible event, was destined for greatness. But his path, it was anything but easy. His was a journey forged in the fires of trial, where defeat would become the very bedrock of his unbreakable spirit. He was born Phai Pampala, a humble son of gardeners who entered the monkhood as a young boy. But his journey was met with a huge stumbling block. In 1876, he faced a massive public failure. He couldn't pass the advanced poly examination. For so many people, that would have been it, game over. But for him, it was fuel for the fire. He refused to give up. He pushed forward with this unbelievable, relentless effort, and by 1885, he didn't just pass, he achieved a high level of scholastic mastery. And there's a huge lesson in that for all of us. True strength isn't about never failing, it's about the resolve to get back up when you do.
And all of that struggle, all of that perseverance, was preparing him for a role he likely never imagined, to lead the entire Buddhist community of Thailand through one of the most chaotic periods in its long history.
You see, at this time, Thailand was going through a massive transformation. The old ways were making way for a modern, democratic state, and the Sangha, the entire community of monks, had to find its place in this new world. The Sangha Act of 1941 was this radical new law, and he, now the Supreme Patriarch, was the one responsible for steering the shit, navigating that incredibly delicate line between ancient faith and modern politics. It was a job that required almost unimaginable wisdom.
And it didn't take long for his leadership to be put to the ultimate test. In the middle of the chaos of World War II, the political powers of the day tried to use religion for their own purposes. They sent an official to the Supreme Patriarch's temple not to ask for guidance, but to give orders, to tell him what propaganda he was supposed to preach to the people.
This moment, it tells you everything you need to know about his character. He just listened patiently as this official spelled out the government's demands. And when the man was finally done, the Patriarch uttered these few, devastatingly powerful words: "Are you going to preach, or shall I?" In that simple, quiet question was the thunder of a spiritual authority that answered to a higher power, not to politicians. The official was speechless, and the sermon that day? It was pure Dhamma, completely untouched by the politics of the world.
That incredible, unwavering integrity came from a deep, profound philosophy. It was a wisdom he didn't just preach from a bullpen, but one he physically forged into the sacred Phra Kring amulets that became the great work of his life.
You see, creating a Phra Kring wasn't just metallurgy, it was a sacred alchemy. He meticulously followed an ancient formula called Nawaloha, the 9 sacred metals. And each metal, as you can see here, had its own symbolic power: gold for purity, iron for courage. The act of forging them together was like creating a vessel of cosmic energy, a powerful conduit for blessings.
And the philosophy that was poured into that sacred metal can be summed up by his most famous teaching. It's a paradox that holds a universe of truth. Losing is for the holy, winning is for the demonic.
So what on earth could that mean? Well, he taught that the worldly idea of winning, always being right, always coming out on top, that just feeds our ego and our pride.
A winner in that sense doesn't really gain anything except the seeds of the next argument, the next conflict. But the person with the spiritual courage to lose, to let go of their pride, to release their need to be right, they achieve a much, much greater victory. They conquer the real enemy, which is their own self. And that is the divine peace of the holy.
Somdej Phra Sangkharaj passed away in 1944, but a soul that great, it doesn't just vanish. The traces of his wisdom, his faith, his spirit, they remain, etched into the very fabric of time.
So just take a moment to look at the face of the man whose journey we've just followed. A life that started with such humility, was tested by great failure, and rose to become a beacon of integrity and spiritual strength for an entire nation.
And his spirit, it's not just a memory. It lives on in very real ways. You can feel it in the sacred energy of every Phra Kring amulet he ever created. It's carried forward by the disciples who learned his sacred arts, and it's preserved for all of us to see at the museum in Wat Suthat, which is this incredible treasury holding more than 20,000 artifacts from his life.
And yet, for all the miracles and all the sacred objects, maybe the greatest lesson he left us is this. The most profound legacy isn't something forged in metal. It's the wisdom he left behind. The understanding that real victory is found in letting go, and that our greatest strength comes from our perseverance. That is a truth that lives in our hearts, and it transcends time itself.